Tati yanchoto taga savi dungar samdana yanlaq dungar gyat jambum dur dibazik de kirna bala tari jinare. Tajir gorchi kir jamsan chirezena tani chi ngsu matsig ramshin de tab deva tari ga chi mongoz yoni na ngchek yang te jutub gonare. Tar dungar mongoz yoni zonte taga teyang jut gonare maqto zemana garega zeni na ta chi sanji bi chul kana dungar zegan de ta tongar to ngarang chu nyan momug ze kirong da lochong garega ta zenre da ta tongar dungar yenne na te ngchek tari jutub gonare zemana tongar dungar yin jin da yana te tari ga teni shutso tari pagba ya ko de na ta dekhi yinre zegan de kizina namji ga ner kana merere jin da yana dungar de nyamsam yong kirong di tar dungar te tari donlen mateve kirong mo mongoz tansan yan tari rangsu she ko ki bur gemsen te tagi da donre.
Awesome. And so this brief overview of the different types of suffering, the 3 root sufferings and the 8 branch sufferings, of course, if there is happiness and joy to be found in the human condition, it follows that this should be expressed and mentioned. But the same is true of the suffering nature of the human condition. It is almost like because the human condition can experience suffering, it's also important to be able to articulate this. There are some people who say like, oh, why do you have to bring this depressing topic of suffering up? It seems like Buddhism is always just talking of dwelling on suffering. And like the young people, they say, oh, we don't want to hear this like morbid talk about suffering anymore. But actually, in the very true nature of things, actuality, suffering is a reality. And since it is a reality, we should be able to talk about it. We should be able to talk about it openly because understanding the reality of suffering will enable us, because for each and every person, there will eventually come a time in which each person's turn to experience some sort of suffering will occur. And at that time, if one has not tried to deny the reality of suffering, then one will have a much easier time of handling and going through, rather coping with the suffering when it hits them. But it's because of our kind of concerted denial of suffering as a kind of a population that there is such a widespread amount of suicide that's just continuing to increase.
Tata huena America gandi semkum rigba yarkab ke semkum rigba ga kebatsu to shogdom shi kirondi America lokchi garanga to ta rangchok jade noksan no tela to mo chutso sam da tongsor ge ya ge ga ta ti chang de teni ngsu andi nganchen dana 대전 든 점질 라속비 되게 년기나 돈에다는 몹사노 장례 가르바스그레 제이다 샤콘제 다티르 다비다리 랑쪽 동주어도 소다리 샘거던 거 등을 남키르 마용에다나 더거 다리가 다 고소 냄샤전 메데 어전 로트 메데 키롱오단 드네 다리가 랑쪽 다리가 쪼쪼도 다 공책이 다리가 더거 다 디킨 소리 탑스가 송다도 원제 다 있나요 다리가 랑쪽 자리 디킨 스라양 다리 정도고 요도 말에
For example, just looking at the country of America, and some great psychology studies were released in which they actually found the percentage and the ratio of suicides that occur on a yearly basis. And the recent number was something like, in America, the number of suicides per year reached about 39,000. And in fact, compared to the number of deaths of cancer or like car accidents or like vehicle accidents, the number of deaths by suicide is markedly higher. And what this shows is why people resort to suicide is because of feeling unable to cope and feeling unable to cope with suffering, because one's mind doesn't have that ability to accept or to expect that suffering is a reality of life. And because of that, then people try to escape that, and that's why they resort to suicide.
다당성데 회나 추바 소인이 나 딘등 그 지금 소위 쳤다 다 등을 몸보스 등 용거지 등을 시작한 등제 레타나 운이가 내가 다 등을 대초 다리가 랑거땅아 토니 키르용디 다 등을 때 다리 람키르 시키다나 대진들 등을 때라 짠측바다도 다리가 추바 몸보스도 송외다나 다 당상 다리 때 키르용디 되네 랑쪽 자는 찾거나 다리 추바다 하정 용용 그 키르요지워도 다리 남바츠 집도 데라 짐직다 딱지 시키지 않지겠나 되네 꾸악사로즈 니탑기래
For example, like practitioners of spiritual traditions, for example, like Dharma practitioners, they will on the on the relative level, you will see that they undergo great amount of suffering in their lives. But yet, when you look at the state of their minds, they don't really experience that suffering as such a heavy burden. And the reason is because they are able to have the tools to actually utilize that suffering as fuel for their spiritual path, to actually take it along their path. And that's why when you look at like the number of spiritual people or Dharma practitioners, and then the suicide rate, you see a very, very low rate of suicide among Dharma practitioners, spiritual people, and this is why.
ngama tari jagar ga mahangandi ga tene choma tari ti lorji sha chonje cherezene na khu tari ga tene wo lob chirni ga ner kapna thangsig nat chembo zga nai dan de bangkang na song shigju ga tengje da shigju shi ner kapna tawo tene de 만바디 다치 요틈 잠자 때니 그래 용어다는 추 식죽을 감나 나는 말에 차는 말에 제이다는 때라 하라 다리가 요틈 그 승가리샤치 그런디다 되는 간디가 다리가 상모디 치제네 제네나 다 큐터 타베 다리가 진 랍말럽 지기오는 말에네 딘디 워 크게 되게 추 강타리야 추 식주 쉐기리 식주 쉐티 추 응음부 시마시 오는 말에 추 잔나다리 캡처 마프처 오는 말에 남베 다리 식주 쉐비네 급나 나차 증을 수산기메 기바즈고 존도 철근 얌섬 용고너레 제 타크르 샤드나르 가너레 제 다 모런 거 다리가 티 발라 테스타 샤드나레 또 샤디 다리 지마 몸에 다리가네 티 식주 다리가 람다 송에 다는 티 워다는 마 창마야너 등어라 되네 동린 틉누고 다리가 로지카 쩍잔즈데 겨요너레
Also, there's a story from the life of Mahatma Gandhi and his wife. Actually, they had a son who, at the age of 12, was stricken with a very serious physical condition that required surgery. And so, at this time, then of course, Gandhi's wife took her son to the hospital, and the physicians were kind of trying to kind of gloss over or smooth over the situation by almost like lying to the son and saying, "Oh, you'll be just fine. You won't have any pain, it won't hurt at all, the surgery won't hurt at all." And when she heard this, Gandhi's wife said to her son, "Now you listen, whether or not they lie to you or not, you have to be very aware that this will be painful, and you should prepare yourself now, because whether you cry or whether you don't cry, whether you cry out for help and you try to get some help from someone else or not, the truth is the immeasurable suffering and pain that you will experience in the surgery, you yourself have to experience that. No one else has to experience that. It's going to be experienced by you, and therefore you yourself must be ready and prepared for what happens." And so because she gave this very kind of sobering advice to her son, then after and during the surgery, both son and mother were able to handle and cope with all of the suffering and pain that went along with that kind of a surgery.
ngātsu lopchāwa tsō gō mō sīdāng sēyin nā tēne tāngbō nīn nē sēm tō gō chāb chīk shī kī tā hāchāng kān chēmbō rē chē rē zē nā ngā chī kī mō tsē gō gyēn rīm gō chō tō tā kīrgā nā chē gō dōng hō rē yāng miyōng jī rē tō mā yīn bā gā nē nā huir nā tā rē gā tāng sāng tā tsēg dōng gō wāng dō shē kī chān zī yin nā zāmbō gō lōng gō khār nab gō mō tham chī kō nē nā huir nā zā tsāng dā zīn chāng nā rā tēne tā rī mō tā gō yī rāng shī chān zī sōng dā yō nā rē tē tāng rā bā chāng gō tā ngā chē kī tā rī huar mjir tē yāng yī tōn tsā mē jī gō mō gō sōng rē 톱 나타있나 양 이돈차 맨 몽어 건데 때니 저런디 강 딸이양 타크르 때나 다타가 지금 대치 그라운진차 몽어 요네나 단도 남식 내ርከ음나 인지는 조지레 남식 내ርከ음나 니 다리가 다 리슴 그렇다 등을 하자 침보중 중 문제랬다 종원 내ርከ음나 네 다리 등을 때라 찌르다 전도 그거 나는 신이 이제 토만 있네 ngotsu darig sowa ga chotan jing ge tela sonlo tang ji chan zina sem de ramba jin de na de yar checha yi dan da de hwang er dang ba nyang tup dan ba zig de den jir ju on de darig ng chi gi da lo jong zer go na ja ge jong der ge song de
So specifically for all of the like students out there, it's very important to prepare, right? To make sure that you are mentally prepared for what is to come. And so if you recognize that since the human condition is by nature characterized by, for example, the 4 root sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, and also all of the various different other types of sufferings that affect a human life, if you recognize this, for example, like in the world now, you see a lot of suffering based on failed relationships, husbands and wives and so forth. And because all of this is impermanent by nature. And so if you recognize the impermanent nature of these relationships and also like wealth and financial situations and power and status and all of these things, then whatever happens, you will be ready to handle it. You will be far more prepared than if you simply ignore and do not like kind of prepare your mind. Because, for example, if you maybe now everything is great and happy, but because eventually every person has to experience some sort of hardship and suffering, and because it's the nature of change. And therefore, since everything is the nature of change, if right now you can kind of prepare yourself mentally by saying like, whether it is physically or emotionally, at one time or another, because of the nature of change, I will have to experience tremendous suffering. But right now, I'm going to prepare myself so that when that time does come, I will not be caught off guard. I will be able to handle it. Because it's very important to have preparation and to think about it ahead of time. Because if you do this, then every time you prepare yourself, like the more you feel prepared, the more you can gain strength of heart and fortitude to be able to endure and kind of cope with whatever difficulties arise later.
능을도 무엇이기온도 같이 멋지게 나온다 하장 런탕치 같은 인데 치레제나 능을도 다 치트 하르 빵 치트 데라 능을 데라다리가 드니 딱 주의 손지 잔제나 무슨 무스던 세이나라 능을 주의 타르트즈다나 능을 빵에다나 뜨가 타커커랑 도는 말에 가르테 능을 그 랑진다나 능을 그 겨 등을 그 다리가 담 제벨아 속발라 somno 집도 땅지 잔즈기나 다 등을 대야나 지 덴지 다리가 하장 쫙고 사즈다나 덴지 다리가 지 언론식 잔즈 다리 머네다나 당사 추바 몽즈 그다 등을 다리가 람치르 그 냠는도 솔라테니 체레 용에다 등을 대좀 좀거 언제다 옛날 등을 띠 때다가 다리 어느 톱고요 말에
Because if you understand and recognize suffering, then this human life is extremely precious and valuable. And of course, everyone is always trying to avoid suffering and trying to run away from suffering. But whoever we are, like as much as we try to run from suffering, we cannot completely abandon or rather overcome suffering unless we first understand the nature of that suffering, the cause of that suffering, and then how that suffering is the result of some cause that preceded it. And so when we understand this, then we don't have to be so afraid of pain and suffering that we have to try and escape it. And then also all the Dharma practitioners and spiritual people, they are able to use that suffering and take that along the path and practice through it. And it's not that they don't experience suffering, they also have all kinds of sufferings. It's just that they're able to go along through that suffering without being kind of knocked over by it because they are able to take it along the path.
딱 갈때 등을 그라운신데 야하즈도 무엇이지 잔즈기나 등을도 뭐책에 기위시에는 길근 하장 야하즈가 송원래 치레제니나 남시 나 코리는데 등을 때람 차피는 이렇게나 등을 때때니 꿀급 하장 야하즈 기이다 ರಂಗ다리가 더니 치레제니나 더가 다 플로중 거급스도 깨르다 언제 때이니나 회나 저기 게르근 잠바지나 게르근데 지 요티다 메티 가머가 남바 몽즈 요온제다나 다 등머데나 등머들 긴등은 소위 줬나요나 등머들 긴등은 소위 줬나오티 등머들라 때니 더가 다리가 다 ರಂಗ 셈거 더가 니식데 야라 샤르탑기다나 대신도 ರಂಗ 셈게요나 지 더가 냠는데 야라 우용이 쳤다나 하장다리 그러나 추바소 있나 추바데 솔라다리 등을지 갈아간서 좀좀거 연제담 존나요나 뭐체가다리 키오 지 타머와 탐치도 잡아진다는 지가 등을 람스나 좀에다나 단디 그러나 지 때랑 무즈 흐송이 나나 다 하장다리 셈르되게 결혼하다 코로나나 뜨가 흔히 저희 결혼하다는 디모가 뜨가 남바다나 추바소다리 추바 이하체가 전데 추바 이하 냠니 요사차가 때다리가 정거 요는 말에
Awesome. And so, for example, when you are able to recognize the nature of suffering, then actually you realize that that suffering becomes your greatest teacher, your greatest spiritual guide or teacher. Because, for example, like other kinds of like when you experience suffering, it really is giving you an opportunity to grow and learn and develop deeper spiritually. And for example, like other kinds of teachers, there's times when they are around and available, and there's times when these other teachers are not available or accessible. And then there are also times where the teacher is like happy and pleased with you, and other times where the teacher is not happy. But suffering is something that is always there accompanying you in your very human condition in your life. And suffering is always availing itself to you to learn something through that experience. And so then if we are able to recognize like what suffering has to show us, and actually when we experience hard times and suffering, we can actually grow from that experience, gain a deeper, more evolved state of mind, and also gain great strides in our spiritual practice as well. And that's why like a lot of Dharma practitioners, and I'm talking about like the real practitioners, the real spiritual people, when they experience hardship or suffering, they don't react like an ordinary person. For example, if somebody dies, they don't feel completely like they are unable to bear it, because their recognition, of course they experience suffering, but they don't feel that they are at the mercy of that suffering like an ordinary individual. And I'm talking about those real practitioners.
당일 연동 것도 삼는 샘톡 같은 거 대치기원이나 다 대치는 거 말해. 드네 다리가 잠바가 이르고 공부 같은 거 사람 대치도 되고 되고 랑압진 거네나 대치 대담보즈 말해 삼고요. 당상 харшог 나글로 드네 파르치 zegdon 거거리엔 사례. 되고 담부 대치 나라고 다 체르제나 디모 올라즈기요래. 걔남배 먹고네 다. 되고 다 대치때 하장 담보즈도 나라고. 되고 담보고 되고 치 담보고 대치 나라고 제이달 나총소나 하장 때를 대가고 온제다. 다 옛나요. 다리가 대치때 다리 담보고 요건 말했대요. 대치인데 하장 맞다고 여러분이 잔등 요건. 가르테 샘톡 나다리가 대치요니 나땅 오마 다리가 때 샘톡 그냥 낸다가 다 담보랑 잔장 대치 켜람 좀 특히 예치요.
Listen. Like, in my opinion, what I really feel, and I'm always thinking this way, is that if we can somehow attain inner happiness within our minds, then we can say we've achieved everlasting, stable happiness. But as long as we feel that our happiness is dependent upon external factors or external conditions, as long as our happiness is something that we feel we have to derive from outside of ourselves, then that happiness is very tenuous, is not lasting at all. In the East, there's a kind of a popular song that the young people are always singing, and the words, one of the chorus of the song translates as, lasting happiness, give me lasting happiness. And the young people, they really love to sing this song, and I'm thinking to myself, musing as it were, that if you really want lasting happiness, the whole point is that you have to cultivate that happiness within your mind. Otherwise, as long as you think that lasting happiness is going to come from outside, the very definition of this kind of happiness is that it is extremely unstable, the opposite of lasting, the opposite of stability. So true stable happiness, if you want it, has to be cultivated within, independent of the changing environmental conditions.
다 때랑 뒤속그 다른 몽즈메 칸는 더이나 쳬남바가 한초그 다 롭자가 나나이나 지 롭자가 나 촌나더니 뭐짓 나던 거 다직 속바다 디모 요늘에서 그때 옛날 하장 여호래 그 딸이양나 소 쪼르징 그 르니가 그 세마 대신 정토와 그 로마초에나 존을 시기도 깔 쳬보래 막또 회나 샤르납 그르자급강나 롭자 체슈나 산르그 럭서 하장 모요온레다 옛나요 다리가 샘톡고 다리가 드니 화름저 좀 받아 샘톡고 다리가 드니 디치 좀 받아 탑고 다지가 로중 로속을 건데요나 하장 다리가 용거 요늘이 대나 지가 남바츠 한쪽 그 다리가 로중 그 캅쇼인데 옛나라 지도 당럽 그르니 산르그 럭서량 거거다 니시 다그 나수 다리가 샘톡 거네나 대와 다리가 되게 저스터 소르서 다는 등을 남기를 시르다 등을 돈는 시에서 노솔 다리가 대 솔는 시기다 깔침보래.
And so we don't have a lot of time left for today, but I just wanted to say, like it's wonderful that all of you students at this university are really studying so many of these, wonderful subjects and sciences and so forth. And but another thing that's also important is to really deepen your understanding of the nature of mind too, and understand like how to achieve happiness in the mind and how to cope with suffering. many universities I've seen, East and West, and there's a tremendous degree of strength in the sciences and in all of the different areas of study, but it is very, very rare to see a dedicated kind of topic, or rather a subject of study dedicated to the study of the introspection into the nature of the mind and how to achieve real happiness within the mind and how to overcome suffering and so forth. And while it is very wonderful, of course, to expand one's understanding through philosophy and science and all of these wonderful objects of study, at the same time, it's also important that you continue to learn more about your own mind and exert yourself in understanding the nature of happiness and the nature of suffering, and then when suffering comes, kind of training yourselves to be able to cope with that and handle that as well.
시스 춘도 냠슬랭 기찬지기나 다 저 회나 이득바던 짜라이 나란자가 대비전도 문도바 토도바 발라소비 등을도 뇽뇽고 언제다 등을 때라 때다비 점바 첨보요 말에 회나 잉오이나 네 직다리가 추고 냠슬랭 찬 돈보직 토원 말이다 다 있나요 제 랑커 그 직된 그 당선 그 따직 먹잠바수 하정 람선아 종에단 점바치가 요는도 솔직히 다리가 다 파르체와 직된자가 그렇긴 문도 삼지오거네 랑아다리 샘거 화도 뭐 요건데 대당 자와장 그 추바 실동아 참말아요 된자 요건네 된자 남바수 있나 등을 그 오치모진 등을 그 기치모진 등을 디 랑진 치모진 라속바가 되니 다 랑거 르밥 좀데 딱시시 기잔지나 마웅왕 치긴 소화가 줬더 등을 종종 그랬다 종나요는 데라다리가 된 직접감 메빠거니는 되네 다리가 랑거 단 소화돼 하 저들 길탑교 데레다리 럼밥 좀데요는 즉 타라 톱교 오거니는 되네 다리가 되네 이치요
And so, in the future, of course, everyone has to experience these different types of suffering, like the suffering of being separated from the object of one's love and attachment, or the suffering of having to endure what one does not want to experience, and so forth. But Dharma practitioners, spiritual practitioners, really, they still experience the same kinds of sufferings, but they don't have as much fixation or grasping onto that suffering experience. For me, as a personal example, I don't consider myself to be an extremely high-level Dharma practitioner, but I've definitely dedicated myself to trying to learn and practice the Dharma. And I really feel when I look at the reaction of a worldly person to various different life experiences and suffering, I don't feel as much invested in the kind of fear of suffering as, let's say, someone who doesn't have kind of the spiritual foundation of Dharma practice, because if for you also, and it's not just me, it's all Dharma practitioners are like this. There's less of this feeling of being the realness and the heaviness of suffering. And so for all of you, I encourage you to really use your analytical mind, use your own logical intellect, and really examine and question what is this essence of suffering? What is the cause of suffering? What is the nature of suffering? What is it like? And through your examinations, then in the future, as you go through life, whatever kinds of sufferings and difficulties may or may not arise for you, you don't have to be so afraid of them. You don't have to relate to them with such panic and terror. Because when you understand the nature, then gradually you'll be able to become free from them. I have confidence in you.
다더니 차트된다지 인터넷 저와가 너가 칠남바가 시기니 심하선 거 같다. 디치 샤트그레 삼기 김선요 나영 알아 쇼쇼다 쳤더니 참 그거도 들어봐요.
So that concludes the talk for today, and I open the floor for questions. And also, I challenge you, if anyone can give me a good logical reason or proof of how to refute me and to say that how is it the case that from birth until death, human life is actually the nature of happiness. If any of you can challenge me logically through that, I invite you to try.